can record it after this, but just a video that says, friends don't let friends pay $100 for Impact Weekend. We would love to record that and put that out on First North students' social media posts, and maybe some of you would be willing to post that. But if you want to do a quick video, and maybe you have another creative idea that would go along with that, I would love to video you just on my phone right after this tonight, so see me about that. Also, golf tournament is coming up March 2nd. These forms are out on the table. We really are in need of teams. I think we could take whole sponsors through maybe tomorrow or Friday. But this, if you can get a team, a whole sponsor, this will help cut the cost of your summer trips. So it's a great opportunity. I share with you Sunday. I know a couple of students who mainly got at least half or almost all of their trip paid for through sponsorships. So if you know someone, if your parents could take these to their workplaces, get some teams for the golf tournament, okay? All right, I think that's it. Let's continue worship.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? It was my turn till I met you. I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. Till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Jesus, when I met you, when you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. I needed rescue, my sin was heavy. The chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I wasn't orphan. Now you call me a citizen of heaven. When I was broken, you were my healing. Now your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open. 'Cause when you call my name, I ran out of that grave. Out of your darkness into your glorious day. You
Is it the am I on? Oh, yeah. I just told Sandy King back there our song that just said, mercy is falling, hold up your hands, receive it now. I said, I need to receive a little mercy tonight because I found out this morning I was going to be speaking to you guys. So since Gannon is sick, so hopefully you will get something out of this. I do believe that the Lord has a message for us, for me, for you tonight. And we're called to live out of the overflow. I tend to like to plan and prepare. And so I will probably have to rely on my notes a little bit more than what I normally would. But it's never about me. It's about Him. So it's about His Spirit in me. And so anyway, I believe God has some good things that He wants to do in us tonight. But before we get started, has Eric McKinney made it back? Is Eric in here? Okay. Maybe Caleb could help me. Do you have on your phone, do you have YouVersion or the Bible on your phone? Okay. Can you come up here and help me with something for a minute? I thought we would open up with, I've just had these gift cards that just have been burning a hole in my pocket, and I would love to give them away to some people tonight. But I wondered if anyone would be willing to come up and recite any of our verses that we've done in community group, any that we've done for the past 6 weeks. 6 weeks? Anybody got a verse? I mean, we've got Starbucks here. We've got some Chick-fil-A. Any of the verses. I've got a... Okay, you can? Okay, come on up. Here, let me grab. All right, which... Look, I do have a list of our verses, not just the addresses. If you want to tell me which one. Genesis 1:27? Okay, all right. You got this.
I forgot the beginning. I don't want to take it.
Okay, if you can remember. Okay, Riley. If you remember, we'll come back to you, Grayson. Okay. Riley, let's see what you got. Okay. Do you remember what translation that you did it in? Do you know? NIV. Okay. All right.
I talk pretty loud.
All right. Go ahead. Just go. Okay.
Created mankind in His own image. In the image of God, He created them, male and female. He created them.
Really perfect. All right, right here. Do you want Starbucks or Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A.
Okay.
I go there every Tuesday.
All right. You do for Chick-fil-A Bible study. Okay, anybody else? Samantha.
Rachel next.
Ephesians 3, 20 through 21. Sam, 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 Sam.
I'm not cheating. Why? Okay. Now, to Him who is able to do far more abundantly than we could ask or imagine, according to the power at work within us. To Him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus forever, throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen.
Yes. Up top right here. What you want? Starbucks? Shocker. All right, I have 2 more. Anybody else? Hey, Rachel. Let's go, Rach.
Yeah, Rachel! Thank you.
Dear children, let us not love in words or speech, but in actions and in truth.
Good job. Chick-fil-A. All right, anybody? I have 1 more Chick-fil-A. Anyone? Anyone? Audrey. Yeah, Audrey. got
Genesis 50:20. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives.
Got it? Yes. Good job, Chick-fil-A. All right. Thank you, Caleb. All right, good job, students. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the second in the Known series that Gannon has been doing. So this is the second sermon in that series. And tonight we're talking about false identities. Did you know that we all have a false identity? Are you aware of that? That we all pretty much have a false identity. And sometimes that identity can be so convincing that we don't really even realize that it's false, that it's fake. And we start to believe that is who we really are. Maybe someone has told you, an adult or someone has told you that you're not enough. Maybe you're not good enough. You don't have what it takes. So we begin to have messages just from the world that we live in, sometimes just from our own families, friends, or people we thought were friends, who begin to tell us these things. We begin to put expectations on ourselves personally. And so sometimes we become convinced that is who we really are. We can come to church, we can play the nice Christian girl or guy. We can take these great pictures at coffee shops with our Bibles, which I do sometimes, and post them on our social media pages or have a verse in our bio. But we can ultimately fool a lot of people around us, but can we fool God ever? No, his omniscience, the fact that he's all-knowing pretty much tells us we can never fool God. And as we learned last week from Gannon's sermon, God knows everything. 139, or continue with that tonight, verses 5 through 12. And I think we've got verses on the screen as well. I apologize for my voice. So I'm going to start with verse 5. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me be night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is bright as the day, for darkness is as light with you. We could pretty much just stop right there as far as I'm concerned, because I love Psalm 139, and I love the verbiage. It's just, that's encouraging, what this text is saying, that no matter where we go, no matter what we do, God sees it all, guys. He sees everything. We can't hide anything from him. We might as well not even try or attempt to do that. But that can kind of be scary maybe a little bit. I think Gannon talked about that some last week. Could be maybe scary to some of us. We might not really want God to see our lives right now. But that encourages me, just knowing that God sees me. That helps me. I've got really two best friends that I would say just are my best friends. And I often go to them with situations, or if I'm just having a hard week, or just maybe if I'm facing a decision. And a lot of times they may not just give me an immediate solution to the problem, or they may not help me decide on what I need to do in any given situation, but they listen to me, and they bring validity to me, or they just hear me out. They see me, and they know me because they're I'm their best friend. And so sometimes it's just this idea of God just seeing us and knowing what we're going through, knowing the struggles that you face, knowing what's going on in your home life right now, know what's going on at school or in your relationships. So sometimes it's encouraging just to know that God sees us, that we can't escape his presence, that we can count on him. So again, we're talking about false identities. And obviously, I don't think anyone in the room is a superhero or a secret crime fighter. That would be great. But again, there is this false version of ourselves that we put at the forefront sometimes, just even of our value. And that false identity is always fighting to take rule in our life. It's always fighting to have precedence in our lives, to take rule there. And that false identity is an identity that is wrapped up in superficial, shallow, and temporary things. I'm going to say that one more time. This false identity is an identity that is wrapped up in superficial, shallow, and temporary things. For some of us, this identity can be wrapped up in playing sports. For some of us, it's in our academics, maybe in our grades. For others, it might be in our looks, our appearance, our image. We all have certain things that ultimately define us, things that maybe we're known by, things that make us feel valuable. But tonight, we're going to specifically look at 4 categories where we can kind of see this false identity. I'm going to ask Caleb and Peyton to move our board up here for me, if you would. We've got it just as a visual for us to see. And I actually need someone to volunteer that has pretty decent handwriting, that can write pretty well. You can? Okay. Who? Eric? Wait. Who? Okay. You want to? Okay. All right. Come on up, Zoe. I'm going to scoot over here just a little bit. I want to make sure everybody can. Okay. Yeah, let's just back this all the way up. Yeah, this thing is hurting. Maybe slide it back that way a little bit more. Okay. Can everybody see a little bit? Okay. Okay, do you want to try? Grab up one of these black markers. I think I tested both of those. Okay. All right. So these are just 4 categories where, and it's called, it's an acronym, PAWS. So if you can remember, PAWS. Position, appearance, wealth, and skills. So we're going to start off, and Zoe's going to write these down. I just want this to be very interactive, so you can just speak out, yell out. But what are some things that make people feel valuable at your school, just at school in general? What are things that make people feel valuable? What? Being popular? Okay, and we're gonna write these kind of in these categories. So popular, that would probably be under position. Popular. All right, what else? What are some other things? Okay. What? Compliments, okay. Compliments. What are things at your school that make people feel valuable? Some things that people feel valuable at your school. So that can be everything from, like we've talked about, academics, sports, leadership, roles. Okay, what else? Relationships, okay. So that could be under position as well, relationships. Okay, what else? Athleticism, that could be under skill. That could be under appearance. All right, so shoes up under appearance right here. You're doing a good job, girl. I forgot athleticism under skills. So down there under skills. Athleticism, or just put athlete. Like ATH. Savannah's got you. Okay, what are some more things? Maybe think of leadership at your school. School president, okay, so student council or school president, that could be position. What would fall under the category of wealth? Yeah, like if it has money. Yeah, you can just put prez or president. Good job. Okay, so wealth. What about, somebody said shoes. If you've got the right shoes, maybe shoes and clothes under wealth. Well, it can fall in both categories. What about having the most friends, like you're well-liked? You've got a lot of friends at school. What about that? That could be under position, friends. What about, what? What about the latest phone, like the latest iPhone XR? I don't even know what the latest one is. All right, that could be under wealth if you've got the latest phone, maybe clothes, anything else. Kate? AirPods. All right. What about under skills? How about good grades? Grades. Anything else that what? Looks, okay. That under appearance, that could be under appearance. Looks, your image. We've got sports, athlete. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, hey, give Zoe a hand. Good job, girl. Here. All right, good job. All right, I'm going to slide this. Connor, you want to help me move that a little bit out of the way? Okay. Thank you. I'll grab that later. Okay, so basically, everything that makes us feel valuable can really be summed up in these four well, I didn't really want you to do it that far. Maybe just right here. Sorry. Thank you. You're doing a great job. Well, just, yeah, kind of back a little bit where it's not so crooked. Okay, that'll work. All right, so we can find, again, in each of these categories, just areas of our life where we could be tempted to see our identity, see things that would give our life worth, maybe just to see things that would make our life more valuable. It can really pretty much be summed up in position, appearance, wealth, and skills, or PAWS for short. So our position is more about our standing. I think somebody said popularity earlier. Who your friends are, maybe how many people know you at school, how many likes you get on your post, maybe a leadership position that you're in or some accomplishment. And people can get caught up in this idea of position, right? And let me just pause for a minute and tell you, adults struggle with this too. So we don't have it all figured out. These are things that challenge us as adults as well. So it's not just students, teenagers that struggle with that. We oftentimes struggle with identity as well. And if we can kind of get this right at an early age and understand that it's God, and we're going to talk a little bit about meaning, purpose, value, and the worth, we can be much more successful adults, more successful in our marriages, more successful even in our business, our career, just interpersonal relationships, just really any area of our life. So get this when you're young and just grasp this truth about your identity, being in God and being a child of God. So appearance, we can get caught up in our clothing, maybe just people tell us we're attractive. If we have the right makeup, ladies, the right hair, the right shoes. I think it was at the Gaffney Outlets Thanksgiving weekend, and there was a line, I think it was Black Friday, there was a line at the Nike store, and I don't know, you'll have to forgive me, I don't really keep up with tennis shoes a lot. I mean, I wear Vans and stuff, that's about it. But there was a line like forever long at the Nike store. I don't know what people were shopping for, but do you know what that might have been? Nikes. Well, I figured it was shoes, but like a specific kind that people were in line for. Yeah. So there was a big line at the Nike store. But anyway, we get caught up in our clothes, and we can feel valued because of our looks and how people compliment us and how we get attention that way. So you can start to feel like your identity and your value is wrapped up in that. Our wealth, material possessions, again, how much money we have, maybe how much money our parents have, our home, where we live, the neighborhood we live in. We can, again, feel valuable because of money. We can feel like somehow we're worth more than other people because of that status. And then lastly, our skills. Our value can come from just how talented we are, if we're a good singer, if we're a good athlete, maybe how smart we are. We can find our value in those things because we feel talented and we feel like we have a greater skill set than someone else, or we feel like our skills are more seen as more valued than someone else's. We can even look at that in the area of spiritual gifts as well. So these categories can determine whether or not we feel valuable, whether we feel good about ourselves, and they can ultimately shape our identity. And when these things are up in our lives, like when we're feeling good, we maybe did well at the basketball game, or we, aced our chemistry test, got a really good grade. Maybe we got new shoes or a new outfit. We can tend to feel maybe better about our life, about ourselves. And then when things are down in these areas, and maybe we failed our test, maybe we got cut from the team and we feel like a loser. Maybe we feel ugly because we don't have the appearance that someone else has. We tend to look at these problems and see these things as either adding value to our identity or taking away. And it's not, of course, we're going to be discouraged if we fail a test, and we're going to probably be sad if we didn't make the basketball team, like me in 7th grade, not even made the first cut. But I lettered in soccer in high school. So anyway, but of course you're going to feel sad, and sometimes these things matter in our lives, but the problem comes in when we look to these things as giving our life value, as giving our life worth. And so we become discouraged when we think about these things giving us value, and we try to overcompensate in our lives. So if we don't feel really smart, we're just like maybe not going to focus on school, and we're going to become good at sports. Or maybe if we didn't make the team and we're not good at sports, then hey, I'm going to try my best to look pretty and be attractive. Or maybe we're not attractive, so we put everything into grades, all our effort into grades to try to make the grade, and to have our identity wrapped up in our intellect and our academics. And ultimately, people spend all day just chasing these forms of identity, these worldly things, just to feel valuable. Their identity is caught up in these shallow, superficial, and very temporary things. These things are temporary as well. And it's really heartbreaking to see people, and teenagers especially, just to feel depressed, to literally go into depression, to feel just completely discouraged and destroyed because they don't believe their lives have value. I just think about a middle school student choosing to take their own life because they felt hopeless. And I guess the things that they were turning to for that validation, and to feel worthy, to feel accepted, to feel significance, to maybe give their life meaning, none of that was working, and they were hopeless. So that should not be. Also, girls who put emphasis on their physical appearance because they are striving to get more likes on social media posts, striving just to keep up this appearance so they can feel valuable, so they can be worthy or feel worthy and feel significant. And guys just having the pressure just to be the best, the all-star athlete, or pressure to perform, or even to have the perfect grades just so you can be successful. Even extracurricular activities. And again, all these things are not bad in and of themselves, but if we are turning to these very temporary, superficial, even shallow things for our worth and our identity, then we've got a false identity. We have a very false perception and a false value of ourselves if we are turning to these things. I think about students who are bullied, maybe because they don't fit some norm, some cultural norm, or maybe they're just a little different, and so they're bullied. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that puts so much value on the temporary, so much value on this position, our appearance, wealth, even our skills, on these shallow, superficial things. And the problem is these are they're all false. They're all false. Our identity is not in any of these things. And again, we talked about these things being very temporary. We can lose everything written on that board, every bit of that right here. You can lose every bit of that, like tonight. All of this, the popularity, the relationships, the friends, the shoes, the looks, the good grades, all of this can be gone. You could lose that tonight. It's very temporary. It's very, very shallow. And if your value as a person, as a human being, is dependent upon some of these things, let's just say upon being attractive, that can be taken away in an instant. And I've got a graphic. Tyler, if you want to put the picture on the screen of Catherine Wolf. I don't know if you know Catherine and Jay Wolf, but she spoke at Passion, I guess maybe 3 years ago. with Louie and Shelley Giglio interviewed her on stage, and basically she had just gotten married, I think, and had her child. I think he was months old, I believe. And in 2008, she had a stroke, a brainstem stroke, and it left her with long-term disabilities and just really life-altering long-term disability and changes. However, through this experience, she and her husband founded a ministry. You can find her actually on Instagram under Hope Heals, but they founded a ministry called Hope Heals, and they have camps in the summer. I really don't know all that they do, but they have camps and they're able to minister to children and other people with disabilities. So obviously she's still a very beautiful person. I mean, she's still very beautiful, but just look at the difference, just in a moment, how her life was radically changed, just in a moment. So, you know, if her identity was in appearance, obviously that has changed. That has changed drastically. Again, temporary, shallow things that we put our identity in. Your intellect can be taken immediately from a brain injury. Your athletic ability can be taken. Your money can be taken. Again, all of these things are superficial, temporary things that can be taken away. Temporary identity equals temporary value. Think about that for a minute. I'm going to say it again. Temporary identity equals temporary value. On the other hand, if your value and identity are dependent upon something eternal, something lasting, that's never going to be taken away. No matter what happens to you, no matter if an injury comes, no matter if something tragic happens in your life, that's never going to be taken away. Your real value will never be taken away because it's something that is eternal, as opposed to a false value or a false identity. And here's just a scenario for you. If there was a son who came home and said to his dad, "Hey, Dad, guess what? I have finally become valuable to you. I made the basketball team at school, and I got my math grade up to an A. Now you can think highly of me." If that dad was a good dad, he would know exactly what to say. He'd say something like, "Son, I'm so glad you made the team, and I'm proud of you for doing well at school. That brings me great joy, but don't think for a second that is why I love you, or that I didn't think highly of you before. I love you because you're my son. You don't need to earn my love." Your real identity and your real value come from one thing and one thing alone. You are a child of God. Your identity and your real value come from one thing and one thing alone. You are a child of the King, a child of God. It's not something you can earn. If you've given your life to Jesus and you are following him, he's washed every wrong, every sin, everything that you've ever done. He's washed that away. He looks at you and he sees you as his precious son or daughter. You don't need to earn his love, and you definitely don't need to earn your value. You are a child of the King, and that is your real identity. Now, that should give us just great hope tonight. That should give us security. But not only that, that should give our life purpose. Our life takes on a whole new purpose and a whole new meaning, knowing that we are a child of the one true God. We are a child of the King. That is my real identity, not in these superficial, shallow, very temporary things. Listen to what John says in 1 John 3:1. 1 John 3:1. I think I've got that on the screen too. Okay. See what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God, and that is what we are. This can actually be translated, "Behold what peculiar, out of this world kind of love the Father has bestowed on us." I love that, peculiar, out of this world kind of love, because really, can God's love be defined by man's terms? I mean, really, I really can't adequately and I was an English major, but I really can't think of the words to really describe God's love where you or I could really understand it and really grasp it. I don't think it can be defined by human terms. I really don't. I love that he says it's peculiar and out of this world. And then that word lavish, and another translation of 1 John 3:1 says bestowed, but that could be translated as abundant. God's love never runs out. It never runs out. It's marked by excess. So you just think, when I think lavish, I don't know, for some reason I just go immediately to like the royal family or something, or maybe Biltmore Estate, or just something, just this rich, opulent scene with this long table with just like the best food, like the setting for a king or something, the feast for a king, just this lavish, this richness, just this abundance. And that's God's love for us, guys. It never runs out. It's lavish on us. It's rich. He has an excessive amount of it. It's never going to run out. It is always abundant. So see what great love the Father has lavished on us, that we should be called children of God. And God doesn't just call us his children. He makes us his children. Do you get that? God doesn't just call you his child. He makes you his child, Connor. He doesn't just call you his child. Kendall, he makes you his child. We can take great comfort, great encouragement, great hope in that. He makes us his children. If you have any question about your value, if that's something that you've struggled with, and I think we all struggle with that from time to time, with our identity, with our value, just think about the fact that Jesus himself was willing to give his life. God's only son, willing to give his life for us. And I believe, guys, that Will, if you were the only person on the planet, Jesus would have given his life for you. I believe that you, Natalie, if you were the only person on the planet, Jesus would have died for you. Jenna, for you. For any of you. I believe that he would have done that. Again, he was willing to lay that down so that we could have life, so that we could have life eternal and life abundant. Think about this fact. You are so valuable that the King of the universe would come down from heaven, be locked in a frail human body for 30 years. He would pray, he would fast, he would endure temptation, he would be mocked, he would be beaten, he would be spit on, he would be betrayed, even betrayed by people who loved him and who followed him, who obeyed him, betrayed, ultimately killed, all because he saw value in you and he saw value in me. All because he saw value in us, because he loved us. But he saw value in us. We were worth it to him, guys. We were worthy of that. Really, technically, we weren't. But he chose to do that. He chose to give his life, to be that sacrifice, because he saw value in us. How dare we not see value in that, in our lives? And let these other things dominate our thought life. Let these other things rule us and just overshadow his love for us and his grace and his mercy. And these aren't my words. These are his words. You have value in him. So whatever you're dealing with, whatever struggle you're facing, whatever has gone on this week, whatever you're thinking about, think about this. Jesus died for you. You are worth it. He saw value in you. You are enough. And he didn't die for you because of any of these things, not because you were attractive, not because you were president of your school, not because you were prom king or queen. Do they even do that anymore? Not for any of these temporary things that are just fleeting, that are not going to last. He died for you because you're his child, and he loves you, and his love is never going to run out. And I hope that you understand that. I hope, if you don't get anything else tonight, that you understand that you're valuable. Not only that, you're valuable enough that God would die for you, that he would adopt you into his family. Not just die for you, but adopt you into his family. Again, he doesn't just call you child of God. He made you that child of God. He made you that child of God. And I hope tonight that some of you will stop living in this false identity, just this false value, these things we've written on the board, things that maybe you've even thought of, that you're turning to for your identity, and that you will completely embrace this identity that God has for you, that you would embrace it, that you would just take it in, not just intellectually, not just having a head knowledge of it, but man, you would live in it, that it would affect your choices, it would affect who you're friends with even, it would affect the way you treat other people. that it would just affect your total being, that you would see that your value and your worth is in him, is in a relationship with him. He made you his child. I'm going to ask the band to start, to come on up, to get ready. And I want you to just think about some of these things we've talked about, these false identities to, yeah, you can move that out of the way. Thank you. Just to think about that, to maybe listen to these areas of your life where God is speaking to you, maybe some things that God has revealed to you. And our teachers, our leaders are going to be on the side and in the back. But I want you to listen. Not just listen. Don't just listen to what God is speaking to you. Don't just listen. Respond. And I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if that's going and talking to somebody, talking to a friend, talking to one of our adults, coming down and just praying here at the altar, and just admitting to the Lord. I mean, he already knows, but admitting to him where you have put your identity in these false things, where you've tried to find value in your life through these temporary, shallow things. Or maybe that whole child of God thing, maybe that's new for you, or maybe you don't really have an understanding of that, or maybe you've never heard it like that before, that it's God that calls you to be his child, that makes you his child, and maybe you're just curious about that. What does that mean? Like, what does that mean to be a child of God? I have questions about that, or I want to know more about that. Please come and talk to someone. Talk to one of our adults. I'll be around. Talk to one of your friends that you trust. But listen to what God is saying to you tonight and respond. Respond either by coming down, praying, and just letting go of that false identity that you've identified in your life, telling someone about it, or just, is it that you need to become God's child tonight? Maybe you've never made that decision. He's willing. He's done that for you. He's paved the way for you to do that, for you to believe in him, for you to be forgiven of your sin. He's done that for you. But he gives you the free will to choose that, to choose to lay those identities down and to find your value in him, to find your real identity in Christ. So do that tonight. Don't leave without talking about that, without making that decision. If that's what God is laying on your heart tonight, if the Spirit's speaking to you about that, please do that tonight. So we're going to worship, and please respond to wherever God is calling you tonight. Thank you.
You give life, you are love, you bring light to
reminder before we go. If you're finding your identity in anything else besides the identity that God's given you, His Son, Jesus Christ, you're living in a false identity. You're finding a false value. If you're looking to other things to give your life worth, value, significance, meaning, so take care of that. If you have questions about that, our leaders are here for you. God sees you guys. He loves you. And not next week, but in 2 weeks, we're going to really get in a little deeper with this identity. Week 3, we're going to be looking at specifics, some awesome scripture passages. I kind of looked ahead about what God says about you and how we do find our identity in Him. But that's 2 weeks from now, so don't miss that. But also, again, Wednesday night, Justin, Warren. Y'all, we need to pack out this house. We need to pack it out next week. Let's get a lot of people here. Get your friends here. He's going to be bringing our worship, doing a concert for us. We're going to have a little preview of Impact Weekend. It's our preview night. Also, the $75 rate. Get your friends here, people who you can invite to this event, people who maybe don't go to a church regularly. A great opportunity for them to come in, hear the gospel, and just understand what that means to be a child of God. So be intentional with that this week. Be here next week. Bring your $75 and bring your people, guys. I love y'all. Have a great night.